Okay, hello everyone. We're going to get this kick-started. So welcome to the Innova Q4 Product Innovation Update webinar. So we've got quite a few of the Innova guys on the call right now. And what this effectively is for is we're going to run through all of the, or some of the prominent features that we've added to WellSeeker X in Q3, i.e. the last 3 months prior to this. So we'll just run through them. I will do a live demonstration of those. And when it comes to the end of the webinar, we'll probably have 5 minutes free for a quick Q&A. So as I'm talking away, can you go into the Q&A tab in Teams? And if you've got any questions that you'd like answered at the end, we'll cherry pick a few of those at the end and go through them. So type away as I'm talking. Just for your information, we are recording this meeting. So it will be available on our website from tomorrow onwards, but just to make you aware, it's being recorded. Okay, let's get cracking. So introductions. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Phil Dunn. I'm the engineering manager at Innova. I'll be hosting the webinar today. Also on the call, we've got Jay McClelland, Bruce Ripley, Jen Gillen, Dan Horgan, and Priscilla Guido. All part of the Innova team. So you'll probably be able to see them right now on the cameras. So what are we actually going to cover today? As I said, it's features that have been added to WellSeeker X specifically. So the things that we're going to be looking at are a new sidetrack wizard, lease line intersection tools that we've added to the plan view plot, debugging and diagnostic suite features, okay, some additional tools to help you, and a few quickfire features. So small additions that we've made here and there through various dialogues and features that don't merit their own sort of big bang release, but are really useful and quality of life improvements that we'd like to make you aware of. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to WellSeeker X. We'll get started. Right, so you should be able to see WellSeeker X now. The first thing we're going to look at is the sidetrack wizard. So what have we implemented a sidetrack wizard for? So historically, sidetracking requires lots of manual steps. Okay, you've got your depth reference, you've got all of your magnetics data, your sidetrack depth, your IPMs, the survey programs, creating new surveys, etc. So there are lots of potential pitfalls for people making manual entry errors or not knowing the process. So we tried to make it a lot simpler for the average user. You can now do that by right-clicking on an actual well, and you can create a sidetrack. So this will create an actual well bore from an existing actual well bore. We also have the ability to create a plan tied onto your actual well bore, or if you go to a plan, you can have a tie-on plan from a plan as well. So we're going to do an example looking at creating an actual well bore sidetrack from an actual well bore. If you click on that, these are the 3 inputs you need to create a sidetrack. WellSeeker X does the rest. So we need our sidetrack depth. We need a sidetrack number. And all this is it's going to dictate what the sidetrack is going to be called once you've created it. So the mother bore here is this well. All this does is going to put a space, -space, ST, and then this number after it in the newly created sidetrack well. And the next point here is transfer reports. So depending on your company policy, you may want to retain the reports for a particular well bore within it, or you might want to have all of your reports under one job number moved solely under one actual well bore within our structure. We can accommodate both. So if you want to keep all the existing reporting in the mother bore, select transfer reports, no. If you want to move all of it and delete it from the mother bore, move all that reporting data into the sidetrack well, you would hit yes. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. Hit create. And you can now see this was our mother bore. It has all of its daily reports have now been removed because we selected to transfer the reporting data. Its status was active is now TD. And if we switch over to our new sidetrack that we've just created, it has an active status. It has multiple reporting data in it. Okay, so all that's been transferred over. And if we look at the properties, all of the vertical section information, all of the magnetics, depth reference, sidetrack details, the survey program screen generated. The survey table has been created with its tie-on point, and the properties for those surveys have been updated correctly as well. So all those little manual steps, all those places you could have made mistakes before, they're all contained in the wizard. They're all done automatically. So big quality of life improvement there in terms of making sidetracks. I'll make you aware that this will be suitable for the vast majority of sidetracks, but in the circumstance where you are generating a sidetrack with a different depth reference to your mother bore, you'll still have to go the manual route, okay? Because it does copy the depth reference information from the mother bore. Right, so that is the sidetrack wizard. Next on the agenda was lease line intersections. So we're going to go have a look at. Let's look at this well. Okay, so in our plan view plots, I'll just turn off these offsets. Okay, we've got an existing well bore and our lease line in red. Let's just change the color of this. Okay, so lease line in purple. We've always had the ability to display lease line intersections on this plot. Okay, so if we drag this one out here, let's put my tether lines on. Okay, we can see our lease line intersections very easily. What we've added the ability to do is intersection projections. Okay, so we take our survey depth of our last survey and project to any lease line intersection points. Beyond that, we've now got the ability to do perpendicular intersection points. Okay, I'm just going to put this out to about 12,000 foot. Put that on a 10-foot increment. Apply that. Okay, so we can now see that we've got a projection all the way for 12,000 foot. And as I move up and down the wellbore, I'll just clear the distance. We can actually see, because I've set the user-defined value to 10, every 10 foot, we're moving up this projection. We can see our perpendicular intersection points as well. So the point on our wellbore and the relevant lease line intersection coordinates and distances. In addition to that, we also have the 330-foot perpendicular intersection points. Okay, I believe this is specific to South Texas, and effectively this will give you your 330-foot perpendicular intersection points as well. So I believe this was a relatively time-consuming process, normally done by well planners in AutoCAD. Usually at inconvenient points in the night. It's now something you can just turn on, toggle on within your plan view settings in WellSeeker X. Okay, next on the list is debugging and diagnostics suite. So this is a number of different things, all under this one heading. So screen capture with audio. We've always had the ability to carry out screen capture. Okay, that's been there for a very long time. You can also access it down here. We've now added the ability to capture the audio to those screen capture events. So that's helpful for everyone. You can talk away as you are capturing whatever event you're trying to depict on the screen, and you can describe it to us in detail as you're doing. So just a little improvement there. Data sync diagnostics is the next one. So we have data sync is the ability to push and pull data between a server database and a field local database. And there are quite a number of infrastructure and settings that need to be in place for this to work. And unless the user was aware of all of those little checklist items, it was quite hard for them to identify if they were having a data sync error or the data just wasn't updating on the server, what was the cause of that? So we've implemented the data sync diagnostics dialog, which you can see here. So you right-click on an actual wellbore and data sync diagnostics. And this really clearly gives you a red or green indicator of good or not good for specific things. So you can see the full list of things that are required for data sync to work correctly. If it's in red, that's bad. You need to go and look at why that's bad. Okay, so in this case, the local well status isn't a relevant status that is allowed to be pushed to the server. The organization doesn't have it turned on in the first place. And even if they did have it turned on, my data sync status has been turned to offline mode. So 3 reasons why data sync in this case for this well wouldn't work. We've also added something in reasonably similar for the real-time data exchange users. Okay, so we've got this section in the bottom right of the real-time data exchange window. And again, yeah, if you select a particular well, it will give you an indication of whether that will push. And in this case, the well status on the server has been set to complete, so you cannot push to it, and that would be an indication of why. Okay, so screen capture with audio, data sync diagnostics. Next one is for anti-collision problem solving. Okay, so quite often we are compared to landmark compass anti-collision. So our results are compared like for like. And if there's any discrepancies, it's often quite difficult to get to the bottom of why there are differences. If you've gone down the route of confirming that the center-to-center distances between landmark compass and well seeker X are the same, but you're still seeing a difference in separation factor values, then the underlying cause will be the ellipse of uncertainty calculations. And basically what we've implemented is ISC-WSA diagnostics file, which can be compared with a equivalent diagnostics file from landmark compass. So if you right-click on an actual wellbore, you can go to ISC-WSA diagnostics. And this generates an Excel file in a very similar format to the landmark one. It contains all of the parameter data that's utilized in the calculation of the ellipse of uncertainty. It includes all of the IPMs or error models and all of the subsequent terms, values, and formula used in those. And for every survey station or interpolated point in the case of a plan, we have the calculated output values for those terms. So you can do a very in-depth comparison between well seeker X, ellipse of uncertainty values, and landmark compasses. A couple of high-level ones to be aware of. A very common one that we see is the wrong units used for B total. Okay, in this case, they're put in correctly, 46,136 nanotesla. You'll often see this as being input as 46.136 in terms of microtesla, which is a common unit used also in the oil field, but not the right unit set to input in well seeker X or landmark compass. So make sure these magnetics values are correct. Another very common one to see is the IPM or the error model has the same name between well seeker X and landmark compass, but the contents, either the terms are named differently, there are a different number of terms, or the actual values or formula for those terms are different. So those are things to look at when you are comparing them. Okay, error logs. So well seeker X, we have added in more error logging. So these error logs have been around for a reasonably long time, but we keep adding new script that we're adding to these error logs. So if you ever have a problem and have sent us like a screen capture, sent us the debugging file, these error logs are now contained within those debugging files, and we'll have access to more problem-solving information than we had previously. Something else we've had, and it's not exactly earth-shattering, but it's a nice quality of life thing to have, is spell check. So you see it in all sorts of different software around the place. I'll open up a well that has reporting data because we moved all that to the sidetrack. Okay. Yeah, so for example here, we've got a few typos. They're being highlighted very clearly. Okay, and it doesn't highlight when it's spelled correctly. So as I say, nothing groundbreaking, just a nice little thing to standardize and quality control data entry. One other thing that we've added that should hopefully be very useful to the majority of users is context help availability. So what do we mean by context help? Context help is a help option that takes you to relevant information for the thing that you've just clicked. So a good example is in our project ahead dialog, we have a little help button. When I click this, it opens up our project ahead guide, which is specifically talking about that dialog and all the features within it. Another example would be the multi-nudge projection. I hit the help button. That is, again, going to go and open up specifically to the multi-nudge projection section. So this is something we're adding more and more into WellSeeker X as time goes on. So keep an eye open for those. And eventually we'll get to a stage where it's fully integrated with our documentation. People don't have to go hunting for relevant guides. When they've got a warning message, there will hopefully be a link to the relevant guide to deal with that warning message and what it means, etc., etc. So that's where we're going with that. Work in progress, but keep an eye open for those. Okay, that is our sort of debugging diagnostic suites additions. Next, we're going to go on to the quick fire features. So again, these are things that are just small little things, quality of life improvements, nice little things to be aware of that might have gone under the radar. One of those is if we go to the geomagnetics calculator, we have an errors box down here. So something that we found particularly on the crossover to 2025 was that people generally weren't aware of the validity of their magnetic error models. So for those that aren't aware, magnetic error models have a predefined date range. And when it came to 2025, error models that have been used prior to that had their end limit set to the 1st of January 2025 or 31st of December 2024. I can't remember which. But now what we've done within our system is implemented based upon the date and location. If you select a model that is out with the date range, you will get an update message in your errors section telling you that is out of date. If you select a relevant one, that will be blank. So it's just a nice little improvement there. We've also implemented this at the actual and plan properties level as well. So if I go here and choose today's date and select a relevant model, no highlight. If I select a model that is out with the date range, it's highlighted in yellow. Okay, making the user aware, not something right. You know, this is not valid for this date range. Okay, so that's magnetic model error messages. Another little tweak that's nice to see is in our interpolation dialog. We've just simply added the ability to interpolate by TVD subsea. Okay, previously it was measured depth, inclination, azimuth. Okay, reports. If I go into my survey report manager, we've now added in a new option here, subsea depths negative. Okay, so by standard, when this is unchecked, for your standard survey report, your TVD subsea values are positive. And I'll probably open up a actual wellbore that's tied back to surface so we can actually see that. Let's go again. Okay, so anything TBD subsea wise above mean sea level is a negative value, and that's standard setup. If, however, depending on our region and customer requirements, that needs to be changed, we can go into a report manager, check this option, create, and then when we look at the TBD subseas, those signs have been reversed. So it's a positive value above mean sea level, a negative value below mean sea level, or whatever your system datum has been set at field level. Okay. One last one is multi-nudge. Something we've had a few tickets in for over the past is people saying, it'd be really nice if you could hide the landing data section because you're not using it for most of the well. And that's already in there. There's a little checkbox, show landing data. It just frees up some real estate for you to be working with. And we've also improved that even more by allowing resizing of this dialog to make it just a little bit easier. So those are all of the basic features that I wanted to show you today. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Q&A. Right, I'm going to look over at this monitor now so you get a good view of the side of my head till I pull this across. Here we go. Q&A. Just refresh these. Okay. So currently I have one Q&A post in here. Would that be correct, Jen? Or are there more that you can see?
Yeah, one so far. If people want to ask anything
Well, keep
else.
it coming in, guys, because it's going to be a short end of this webinar with one question. But we'll deal with Bill's. So Bill says, on sidetrack, once reports have been transferred, can the motherboard report be deleted? That is exactly what it does. So I will just switch back to our example here. So in the example that I went through, this well had 10 daily reports in it, 5 BHAs. When you select the transfer reports yes option, what it does is it both copies all of the reporting data that was in the motherboard onto the sidetrack. At the same time, it also deletes it from the motherboard. So you only ever have one set of that data. Effectively, when it comes to analytics time, you haven't got two copies of the same data sat in the analytics suite. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Bill. Has anyone else got any questions?
Just another couple come in there, Phil.
Okay, excellent. New posts. Okay, so a nice one here from Tanner Edwards. Is there a way to make certain entries mandatory? For example, must select a valid reason pulled out of hole on BHA post run. So yes, there is. That is what we've got called the object validation tool. And that isn't part of, or it's not managed from WellSeeker X, but it is implemented to function in WellSeeker X. So within Vantage, we have the object validation tool. And for the slide sheet, daily reports, and job data levels, we have options that your organization can consider to be minimum standard inputs. Okay, you can specify this for your organization as a whole, or you can make edits to this and have specific minimum data requirements per operator within your database as well. So once you've set that up in Vantage, what does it look like in WellSeeker to the end user? So, for example, in the drill string, for my organization, for this test data, we have as a minimum standard with the object validation system that the serial number always be input for every component. We've got to have the connections input. We have to have a make input for our bit, for everything, sorry. So that is a red flag in terms of well seeker. It also appears in Vantage in the inputs, is the first indication of this. Then every time the user saves, there's also a list of items that have not met that minimum data entry standard. Now, right now, I can tell you everything is turned on. So we're getting a lot of error messages in terms of object validation, but you can obviously par this back a lot as well. If you're just looking for the guys to, as a minimum, fill in like the ODs and IDs, that's all possible. Okay, so you can tweak this as much or as little as your organization requires. With regards to the reason pulled out of whole, that is also something on this list. Okay, so you can select, if they haven't selected that, when they hit save, they will get a warning saying reason pulled out of whole, not filled in, etc. So good question there. Right, let's go back to the list. So from Philip, is there a YouTube video available that shows how to use the lease line intersection feature, including the 330 perpendicular feature? Not yet that I'm aware of, but we can make that happen very soon because that's not a big job. I'll jot that down just now. Excellent. Right, onwards and upwards. So one from Horatio, will this presentation be shared on the YouTube channel or similar? It's going to be available on our website from tomorrow. So we will make sure that is posted up. Okay. We've got one from Horatio as well. If we type comments in Spanish, is there a way to toggle off the spell check? I assume it's only for English. Valid point. Yes, right now we're working off our own internal library. So it will presumably flag for Spanish spellings of things. So unless we added in a Spanish library, then it will flag. So yeah, I'll speak with the devs about that one. That's a reasonable point, which I hadn't considered. Spanish spell check. Okay, right, that's taking us right up to the line here. I will add this back. Okay, so thank you very much for joining this webinar, guys. As I said, the recording will be available from tomorrow. And if you would like to, we've got our website with, I'll just drag it over in a second. You can give any feedback you've got in terms of suggestions for new additions to our software via our website resources feedback page. Okay, if you open this, you can see all the existing feedbacks, how many upvotes they've had. You've also got the ability to add your own suggestions here. So please utilize that. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time, and we'll hopefully see you at the next webinar. Thanks very much, guys.